Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack a truly fascinating parable about value, time, and a remarkably stubborn watchmaker. Look, if you've ever felt completely defeated by a failure, or if you've ever just sat back and wondered about the true worth of your time, you are in the exact right place. We are going to break down this incredibly powerful story to uncover a lesson that money literally cannot buy.
Okay, let's kick things off with a massive high-stakes hypothetical. Imagine this. Someone walks up to you and offers $10 million for a single item you created with your own two hands. And you? You look them right in the eye and absolutely refuse. Now, most people would instantly call that foolish, right? But the guy we're talking about today wasn't just protecting a simple object. He was protecting a priceless lesson.
$10 million. I mean, we're talking about absolute life-changing wealth here, being offered by a wealthy collector to a man named Arthur. Now, Arthur was a master watchmaker. He'd spent over 50 years, half a century, repairing clocks. People would literally travel from distant cities just to seek out his craftsmanship. He was a guy who knew exactly what things were worth, down to the penny, which makes his flat-out refusal of this massive sum so incredibly intriguing.
Section 1. The Unbuyable Clock.
To really understand why he turned it down, we've got to step inside Arthur's shop. Picture an old room on a narrow street, hidden behind a door with a faded sign, where hundreds of clocks are ticking together, every second echoing through the room like a heartbeat. But as anyone visiting would quickly notice, there was one piece that completely stole the show. Kept safely behind a glass cabinet was this one beautiful handcrafted clock with just a simple little sign resting beneath it that read, "Not for sale." So, one afternoon, this wealthy collector walks in and immediately drops a $1 million offer for it. Arthur just smiles and says, no. The collector bumps it up, $2 million. Then $5 million, finally $10 million. But Arthur gently shakes his head, every single time.
When the totally baffled millionaire finally asked what on earth could possibly make this clock so valuable, Arthur quietly replied, "It reminds me of something money can never buy." The collector ends up leaving without another word. But man, this set up a massive central mystery, especially for a young apprentice named Daniel, who had been working right beside Arthur for 2 years. After closing up shop one evening, Daniel just couldn't take it anymore and finally asked the question we're all thinking: why wouldn't he sell it?
Section 2. The Scratches of Failure.
Well, Arthur didn't just tell Daniel. He showed him. He unlocks the glass cabinet, carefully places the clock on the table, and points to these tiny, almost invisible scratches hidden beneath the wooden base, basically taking Daniel back in time. You see, when Arthur was just 12 years old, his father handed him some rough, unfinished pieces of wood and metal and told him to build a clock. The goal wasn't for it to be perfect, but to teach him patience. And it was a grueling process. Arthur spent 3 years building it, and he failed countless times. Springs snapped, gears completely jammed, and the hands would just randomly stop moving. There were so many nights young Arthur wanted to just throw his hands up and quit entirely.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates his father's incredible approach to parenting and teaching. His dad never stepped in to rescue him or repair the clock for him. Instead, he would simply ask this one pivotal question: what did today's mistake teach you? He used every jammed gear and every broken spring to completely reframe failure. It wasn't a defeat, it was a direct learning opportunity.
Eventually, after 3 whole years of relentless trial and error, the clock worked perfectly. And before Arthur's father passed away, he whispered to him, "Never sell the lesson that built you." So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that this single sentence totally transformed a simple wooden clock into a priceless monument of personal growth for Arthur. It wasn't just wood and metal to him anymore, it was literally the foundation of his entire character. We actually see this lesson put into action years later when a terrifying fire broke out in the workshop right next door. Smoke is quickly filling Arthur's shop. Neighbors are rushing inside, frantically trying to save the biggest, most expensive clocks in the room. But what does Arthur grab? Just one thing: the handmade clock. He knew for a fact that everything else, the expensive gears, the ornate, flashy cases, all of that could be rebuilt or repurchased. But the memories and the resilience attached to that single handmade clock, those could never be replaced.
Section 3. Passing on the Legacy.
Watching this story unfold, Daniel the apprentice finally gets it. Some treasures are valuable not because of what they are, but because of who they helped us become. But hey, knowing a lesson and actually living that lesson are two very different things, right? Months later, Daniel is repairing an incredibly expensive clock in the shop, and he makes a catastrophic mistake. He completely ruins it. He's fully expecting Arthur's absolute fury, but he's shocked when Arthur simply walks over and places the old handmade clock right beside him. "This clock isn't perfect," Arthur smiled. "It's meaningful. Don't fear mistakes. fear refusing to learn from them. By doing this, Arthur proved that the lesson of failure wasn't just his to keep. It was a generational gift.
And Daniel, he never forgot that moment. Years later, after Arthur retired, Daniel actually inherited the whole workshop. And just as Arthur did, Daniel kept that beautiful handmade clock right there on display. Customers would inevitably still ask about it, and he would always just smile and say it wasn't for sale. Whenever children asked why, Daniel answered exactly the same way Arthur once had, because some things are worth more than money. The lesson seamlessly continued from one generation to the next, perfectly preserved.
Section 4. Your invisible clock.
Now, I want to pivot pretty sharply here and talk directly to you, the viewer. We've been dissecting a story about a wooden clock, but honestly, this whole explainer is actually a metaphor for your own life. Every single person tuning into this right now owns an invisible clock. It's a timepiece that isn't made of wood, it isn't made of metal, it is made entirely out of moments. This invisible clock is, without a doubt, the absolute most valuable thing you possess. And just like Arthur tinkering in his workshop, you are the watchmaker of your own life, piecing the whole thing together second by second.
So you might be wondering, how do you actually make this invisible clock more valuable? Well, every single hour you spend learning something new, helping out others, deeply loving the people around you, or just putting in the work to improve yourself, that adds immense, unbuyable value to your life. These specific actions are what make your time on Earth worthwhile. These are your real-world versions of putting in the sweat equity, jamming the gears, making mistakes, and ultimately learning from them.
Because the stark, undeniable truth is this: money can buy almost anything in this world, but it can never, ever purchase yesterday. You cannot get it back. So please, don't spend your life tirelessly chasing things that can easily be replaced. Instead, protect the moments, fiercely protect your people, and deeply protect those hard-learned lessons that shape who you become. Because trust me, one day, those memories are going to be the only real treasure you have left.
I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful thought to chew on. The richest person isn't the one who owns the most clocks. It's the one who uses their time wisely. So let me ask you, are you going to sell out the hard-fought lessons that built you, or are you finally going to recognize the true value of your own invisible clock?